There's so much work to be done when it comes to finding out all the attributes and true names of God in their original form. A lot of studying, a lot of studying, a lot of studying and studying and studying. See, I've been in silent mode today because there come a time in your life that you just gotta let go of like the pleasures of the world, because like right now it's not the time to be playing with nothing, and it's not a game. If you really want to take your power back, you have to go relearn all the things that were made forbidden and taken away from you. You got to start at the roots. You got to have the patience and the time and the effort it takes to go through these books chapter by chapter, write down note by note, learn, relearn. Relearn means to be reborn. Just today alone, I done came up with so many different, found so many hidden links to stuff like we were never taught in church. And it's just so on and so on. Like the rabbit hole goes deep, it's like a never ending, never ending cycle, mystery, And God is not subject to one book like people think, or one religion or denomination. God is the all. That's why I say, I am in the love of all, and all love is in me. I am a part of the all, and all is a part of me. I can succeed as a part of all, and failure is individual. I can be all that I wish in all, as long as my wish is sustained within all. All is, I am. All can, I can. All does, I do. Say that multiple times a day. I say at least 3 times a day. Then I say Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. You can say Amen, Amen, Amen. You can say Salah, 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 so be it. Or you can say Fiat, Fiat, Fiat. There's powers in words. And you have to say things in a pure language, not this most brokenest, spellbound language that got everybody under the spell of confusion, Got people fighting over names and words that they don't really hold no significance and validity, but confusion, Like a post I put up earlier, Most people are under a spell right now and they don't even know it, People are thinking things are one thing, but really something else, It takes a lot of work and effort, to dig deep and be willing. Like the same way I do this with spiritual practices and studies, I do the same thing with finding out information about health, wealth, I told you I'm gonna start writing like a ebooks little series. Right now I'm going through different categories. Detox and disease control. Another topic I'm gonna go on overall, people recovering, addicts, drugs and stuff. I conquered and found out a way and came up with a solution and method to where as though nobody will ever have withdrawals. And I know it works just because I tested it out on myself. It happened so long, going on and off of different substance, and every time I would have to keep fighting them demons, go through them different night terrors. And then I figured, like, I gotta go a natural way, I gotta figure this thing out. When I tell you, I've come to realization and cracked the codes. Nobody would never know or try or the right mixtures of things. But I'm gonna start putting some of that stuff in the little ebooks I'm writing, It ain't gonna be for free because ain't nobody gonna tell you the secrets of secrets and the mysteries of mysteries. You got to go through some things to know some things, and you learn through trial and error, you know. You got to mess up to get right. You got to fall to be lifted back up to a certain standard or place, you know. This ain't for the people that got everything handed to them and, you know, they got a silver spoon in their mouth and, you know, everything is made right for, you know. This is for people that are going through trials and tribulations and struggling and trying to overcome their demons, you know. I'm the 999. I'm the real demon slayer. And I say it boldly. And once you know who you are as a person and you know your worth, you got to step into that purpose with great boldness. A lot of people are going to say stuff like, you think you better than them. You think you better than me. You think this is that. Maybe I am, you know. Not to be cocky about it, but you should think highly of yourself too. Because the more you think on a low vibrational frequency, like you beneath somebody, then you're going to be beneath somebody. But if you think and put yourself in high regard and high standards, then you'll overcome all odds. And words have power. Like it says, it's life and death in the power of the tongue. The throat chakra alone is blue. It deals with wrath and kindness, you know. You can speak things to people to uplift them, and you can speak things to them to tear them down, you know. Most people are speaking death, you know. They're not speaking life into something. They just downing people, saying bad things about people, you know, not really giving a real reason, but they speaking off of emotions, you know. Emotions, that's where these eternal angels and eternal demons come from. People create them. You're just a reflection of your own creations, you know. And everybody want to blame something outside of themselves, but, you know, you got to take accountability for your own actions, you know. That's what the law is for. I'm not talking about the physical law that governs the land with law enforcement. I'm talking about the laws of God. I'm talking about the laws of nature. I'm talking about the laws of cause and effect. I'm talking about the principles, you know, of our existence. The do's and the don'ts, you know, and the outcomes that follow. So, yeah, it's very real, you know. And I'm locking in, you know. I got a lot of books. I bought a lot of books and haven't got the time to get around to read them, you know. That's why it gets to a point like eventually, yeah, this social media stuff, you know, I'm a content creator, but I always try to put life out there. Something that'll spark somebody's curiosity, make you wonder, you know, make you take heed into something or touch a certain aspect of your life, you know, at a time that you think like, who would know that, you know? I feel more than I think, because why am I going to get myself worked up with anxiety, overthinking something? Thinking comes from not knowing, you know? And knowing is having the knowledge of, you know, wisdom, the understanding, understanding, overstanding of what you're up against, you know? So if I already know something, why do I have to think about it? I can feel my way through, you know? You have to feel. You ever heard the saying, walk by faith, not by sight, you know? Everything ain't what it's cracked up to be. Something could look one way and it'll be another. There's so many forms of deception, manipulation, people with narcissist tendencies, you know? Everybody trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, you know? If a person show you who they are more than once, that's a pattern. People will lie to you, but consistencies and patterns will never lie to you. A person's true nature is always out there. People, they want you to be forgetful, sweep things under the rug, act like they never happened or they never existed. But people be quiet for a while, but guess what? The pattern always stays the same, you know? People, they don't monitor their own pattern, you know? Everybody has a pattern. Everybody has an algorithm, you know, of something, some sort, just like a machine does, you know. Any code can be cracked if you just find a pattern or the right sequence of numbers or things that coincide, you know. Coincide is where you get the word coincidence from. You think it's a coincidence. Nothing is a coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. Everybody is in existence right now for a reason. Some to uplift people and some to destroy people. Everybody that's in your life is not there for the right reasons. And some people are for the right reasons. A lot of times we tend to push the people that's in our lives away for the right reasons because we stuck on stupid and we always worried about the wrong things. We don't see the good that's right in our face until it's actually gone, you know? And people, they draw things to themselves like magnets, you know? You know how they say opposites attract opposites? It's like we're always attracted to the things that hold us back or leave us stagnant and stuck in place so we have no motion or circulation. It's like a blood clot. The blood can't flow through the system of the body because it has a blockage, you know. These are kind of like people in your lives. They're like blood clots, you know. They're blocking your passage to growth. You say you're going to let them go, but then eventually you keep letting them back in. Just for the same thing to come about, you know, same outcome. Because guess what? People do not change overnight, you know. Circumstances do not change overnight, you know. It comes with time, you know. You know, just because something is quiet and died down, you know, you start missing it because you're so used to it. And when you're used to something, you know, it's like a form of toxicity. It's like people, you know, you kick somebody out your life, but then you feel lonely because you're so used to that adrenaline rush off of that toxicity. But not knowing that's going to be, that's your destruction tool. You know, everybody has a destructive person, chaotic person that's in their life that does not serve them well, you know. You got people out here just playing the victim all around the board, you know. They always got something bad to say about everybody. They always got an issue with what somebody's doing. They always want to fight, you know. It's never them. It's always you, pointing the finger, you know. But these is the type of energies we're up against, you know. We got to know where to draw the line in the sand. Create separation, you know. My point of view is like, I done did so much good for people, and if a person don't want to talk to me or reach out to me, I'm damn sure not reaching out to them. I don't care, because it's a reason for everything, you know. I'm not trying to attract no friends or get people to like me or get conversation out of. Guess what? You'll need me before I need you, you know. Because guess what? I'm doing the shadow work. I'm taking all the steps to better myself. But guess what? Once I get to that certain point, once you get to a certain point and you start to change, guess what? All them same people, they're going to come out the woodworks. You know, everybody going to be trying to, you know, gravitate to you like a magnet, you know. Because that light that's shining on you, you know, it's getting brighter and brighter and brighter. And things that draw brighter lights, they gain more attraction because people can see them. They standing out, you know. They're not the needle in the haystack no more, you know. They the wire and the rope that's around the haystack that holds it together. Not lost in the sauce, but the spoon that's stirring the sauce. Controlling the narrative. Not being controlled. That makes any sense? This is my spirit just talking. But really, we in real times right now, you know? And physical weapons are not going to work in this time. Yeah, it's good to have physical weapons, so things are equally yoked, but there's higher forces at play here, higher forces at play. They've been around for a long time. And these people, entities, places, things you cannot beat with physical weapons. You have to use spiritual weapons. You wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities, rulers of the darkness, in high and wicked places. Think not for a second that you're going to be on to something and unravel something or come up with a great creation to make it better for humanity so people can be self-sufficient. Guess what? That's taken out of somebody else's pockets. That's labeled as a threat, So if you become more wiser and aware and hip to things that are going on around you and less distracted, guess what? You became a threat. Now you got shadow people watching you. You got people making up fake pages to monitor you. You got people just coming to you out the woodworks trying to befriend you, That's why I said you have to have spiritual weapons and tools, Because it's easy to out those people, just by their own intentions and their own actions, You think God made his people to not have any power? All these people, they can do all type of wickedness, whatever, sorcery, whatever you want to call it, witchcraft, whatever. These are elemental powers. These are powers that are entitled to everybody. But it's just who is wielding the sword. What is the intention behind the sword? Just like it's life and death in the power of the tongue, there's life in people and there's death in people. Some people's intentions are based off death and some people's intentions are based off life. So the same powers that are floating around here, you are entitled to, But guess what? You'd rather be distracted by something else. You're capable, you're willing, you're able. You're able to do much good in this world. But in order for no weapon formed against you to prosper, you have to know how the workers of iniquity work. And I mean, that goes both ways, good and bad. We are all good and bad. The Bible tells you it is a time for peace and there is a time for war. I created good and I created evil. That's the lines of duality. Duality also means polarity. There's always two sides to everything. You have the balance, the counterbalance. You got the left, the right. You got the light, the dark. You got the good, the bad. You got life, you got death. You got on, you got off. There's balance. You have to find balance. You got to know what you're up against. You got to know your worth. You got to know your tribulation. You got to know your poverty. You got to believe your spirit is rich. If you're depressed, stressed, and a whole mess, guess what? You got to reevaluate the situation, assess the situation. You got to see what the cause and effect is. What's going wrong? What am I doing wrong? You gotta check yourself sometime, You might do a whole lot of checking everybody else, but you never check yourself, You gotta be real with yourself. Not lie to yourself, People will lie to you, but you should not lie to yourself. But you do got some delusional people out here that tell themselves what they want to hear so they can feel good in their own skin. And a lot of times they try to convince other people of that, just so they can get, a backing of people that share the same views as them, and they'll have a whole army out here against you, thinking you a certain type of way, but they don't know you personally to be that way, but they will still run with the narrative of the person that's pushing it. I chop them all down. There's no win. I know what I'm up against. If I can identify the trait, and I know in my heart of hearts, that is not me. And this person is pushing this spirit and reflecting this intention on me and creating this narrative against me openly or in the shadows. Guess what? I'm justified to do what needs to be done because balance has to be made. The world is given into the hands of the wicked. So there's much more wicked people on this planet than there are actually good. And these people, they thrive off chaos. They thrive off of, your troubles, your misfortunes. People, they won't look to see the good in you, but as soon as you slip up one time or make one wrong move or wrong mistake, I guarantee you it's somebody documenting it because they're thinking, how can I use this as a tool or a weapon somewhere down the line to capitalize off and subdue that person? They're not thinking like, oh, this person is going through a hard time. Why don't I see the good in them, the potential in them? And how can I uplift them and help them from afar or help them, weld their true power, inspire them, People don't think like that, though. There's some people that do. But like it says, as many is called and few are chosen. The path is narrow. It is not wide. And guess what? Majority of people are clinging to the wide path. There's two major religions in this world that have the majority in numbers. And guess what? If the path ain't wide and it's narrow, something ain't right. Add the numbers up there. Just like I tell you, you're going to have true believers and you're going to have cleavers. Then you're going to have the elect. And they say 2/3 of this population will get wiped out. If the census estimates around 9 billion people on this planet, guess what? That means 6 billion got to go. Then you got 3 billion left. And then you got 144,000 elect Messiah-like figures that activated, because guess what? It's going to be a great collapse. It's going to be a great falling. Babylon the Great has fallen. The whore that sitteth upon many waters. They were indulging in everybody's affair. Also known as spiritual Sodom. Sodom. What this Pacific New Babylon promote? In Egypt. Egypt comes from the Greek word Egyptos, which original name is Mitzrayim. But the Greek word Egyptos, it means the house of bondage. And the house of bondage. Who has actually had people in a physical captivity all the way down to the Willie Lynch of mental bondage and finding new ways to keep them in captivity mentally within inside of themselves. This is a beast. This beast is a system. It is a multitude of thinkers that pass this information down from generation to generation. Still to this day, they exist, they live, they breathe. They make laws. It is not a game, But there's a great awakening going on, It's a great awakening going on. A chain of events are being triggered right now as I speak. They're setting things in motion. As well as natural disasters as well. The second coming, you returning back to you, your rightful place. You're hearing of wars and rumors of wars. Nations rising against nation, switching up currencies, famines, food shortages, boats being left with, what do they call those? Shipping containers of supplies purposely being left off the coast, Prices of food going up, eggs, famine, shortages, earthquakes in diverse places. We have been getting actual physical earthquakes, Look at along the whole Andreas Fault. More volcanoes are hot right now than they ever been. More fires are brewing more now than they ever been. Because right here in this book, which I'm going to finish this off tonight, in the 10 plagues apocalypse of Abraham, it tells you there will be fires. Conflagrations of cities, fires. Talk about this great massive hails and stones. That's earthquakes in diverse places, meaning weather in places it doesn't normally happen, which they now call global warming. But they don't tell you this global warming is being activated by the sun. The sun, which is producing coronal mass ejection. All last weekend, if you was sleepy and tired and your body felt fatigue, guess what? We was getting hit with X flares all week. And that's the highest flare that the sun can produce of coronal mass ejection. And what you think is causing the poles to shift. When the poles shift, the roles shift. Nature, Mother Nature. Imagine you as a human body, right? And you putting all this toxic stuff into your gut. Eventually, your body's going to reject it. You're going to throw it up. You're going to regurgitate it. You can go to the bathroom. Your body's going to try to get it out of there, but some things just stick in themselves, and they just grow and grow just like a tumor. How you think the earth feels if you spraying chemicals all through it, pesticide and everything, burning stuff, everything that is impure to the earth's immune system? What do you think the earth is going to start doing? Rejecting it. It's going to start cleaning its system out. And what's that cause? I'm going to have to start wiping, cleaning my system out and killing all the parasites within inside of my system. Because the earth is a living organism. Rearrange earth, you get the word ether. What is ether? Ionized gases. What's ionized gases? Energy. What is energy? A soul within the body, like the plasma that pumps through your heart. It is conscious and it's aware. It's alive. It exists. So what do you think the Bible means by I will sweep the wicked off the land? That means I'm going to regurgitate the parasites that are inside of my womb. The earth is a womb, 360 degrees, where mankind was created, shaped, molded, and formed. Think about that. Just a little food for thought. I'm out.